Browns finished the season with back-to-back wins for the first time since 2009, but it's not enough to save Kevin Stefanski's job. We've got that and more for you in this week's episode of the Brownie Points podcast. I'm your host, Noam, and I'm here with my co-host,
Levi.
Today we got a lot to dig into. Of course, Kevin Stefanski. We're going to discuss Shadeur Sanders and greatest performance. We're going to discuss Myles Garrett. Should there be an asterisk next to his record-breaking season? We're going to have a Brownie Points segment, although it'll be fairly minimal this week. We're going to discuss Kevin Stefanski's firing. Did he deserve it? Should Andrew Berry have kept his job? What would we like to see happen with the next head coach and the search? As well as a little sneak peek into the draft and who we would like to see the Browns take. Shadeur Sanders first. What's your evaluation of his performance? And what do you think about him going forward? Did this game change any of your opinions on him?
I mean, not really. I think my opinions have been pretty solidified the last couple of weeks.
Sure.
Which is just that, he's trouble making reads. Overall, he's not good. What I give him credit is once or twice a game, if he sees man coverage, he'll make a really nice throw. Like if it's clean, I don't mean completely clean, meaning his clean while he's looking, and clean where he's stepping into it.
Yeah, because he's good at holding it and taking the hit. Yeah.
He's gutsy. That's not the issue.
Yeah.
He'll take the hit, but clean for his ability to survey and see the field.
Right.
And it's man coverage because he has trouble with zone a lot. But when he sees man coverage, he'll make a beautiful throw. Like when he can step into it, he can get his situation right. He really is one of the better deep balls I've seen, which is actually pretty surprising. It's something I did not see. Mm-hmm. Fair. I wouldn't put him in the super deep category. Like, obviously he doesn't have a rocket, so he's not going to throw like your 60-yarders. But that actually almost never comes up, even with the rocket arm quarterbacks.
Yeah.
People don't actually throw 60-yard touchdowns, exactly. 60-yard passes all that much. It just doesn't really come up. So he's really good at those. And he did have another one of those. It got dropped by Sal Cannella. But it was a really nice pass. It was a really beautiful pass. Really nicely done. And I've said, actually he does have an interesting thing where he's pretty good in the clutch. Like, he does have that mentality. And it came in. Like, he played better than he did pretty much the entire game. Even though it wasn't crazy, but there was some level of consistency that he didn't have the entire game on that last stretch. So he again shows that, the moment doesn't faze him, which is great. But the body of work, for the most part, was bad.
I mean, still overall a poor game despite
6 points from the offense against a bad Bengals defense in the last week of the season. I mean, 6 points. Right? The defense scored 2 touchdowns. We scored 6 points. You know what I mean? And there were so many pickable balls. I know he had no picks. There were so many pickable balls. And then there was balls that weren't pickable per se because nobody was around them. But they're the kind of balls that get picked. Meaning there was twice where he got hit and he let it go over the middle of the field.
Right.
Happens to be there was no one in the area.
But they're risky throws. The throws that would be better.
If you are in the habit
maybe just taking the sack, to be honest, or if you're going to throw it,
you got better at dirting it.
Right.
You got to get better at dirting it. You got to know where your running back is. Like good quarterbacks know where the running back is and they dirt it near the running back, right? Or something like that. Or out of bounds or whatever it is. If you're getting hit, you just have to get a line of scrimmage.
Sure.
What you don't want to do is let it float over the middle of the field. If you're in the habit of letting yourself get hit and floating over the middle of the field, I promise you will get a lot more picks that way. It's just generally a really bad idea. So you still see some of those really bad habits that I don't like. You did see them actually start to get pressure, and there wasn't really an increase in pacing. Like, it didn't seem like he could really run a quick-paced offense.
Right.
It's just some of those reads and things that he just really struggles with. Maybe he'll make a big leap next year. It's always possible. But the percentile chance is just not high.
Right.
It's a huge leap and processing power, and I just don't see it per se.
I'm
giving him an F+ because you only scored 6 points. I'm not going to give you a passing grade.
Right.
But because he did have a clutch performance and one of his touchdowns did get dropped, I'll give him I'll put the plus in there.
Yeah.
Give him some recognition. But 6 points with a bunch of pickable balls that just got dropped, you're not going to get a passing grade from me.
Yeah, and I think it was 11 of 22. It was a 50% completion percentage. There wasn't really a way to cut this game that you could walk away being particularly impressed, which doesn't mean there was nothing that he did that was positive, but it
wasn't growth in the areas where he needed to grow.
Exactly. And he even mentioned, I didn't listen to the full post-game interview, but I did listen to part of it. And he was even mentioning there about, getting better with processing, basically.
I actually didn't hear that, so that's really good to hear. Because he doesn't need to have that attitude to get there.
Yeah, I don't know if he used the word processing, but he said going through his reads faster, basically. He was saying, I need to get through my reads faster, basically.
That's what I mean, that is part of processing.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
That's the main part,
Exact word. I'm trying to be accurate in my quoting. Hopefully, I'm not.
Yeah, 100%. That's good. That's good to hear, because one thing I was worried about was him being so arrogant in the post-game, or sounding arrogant in the post-game conferences, because I don't really care about a little arrogance, but it sounded as if he didn't recognize where you need to grow, and you need to recognize where you need to go in order to grow.
Right. exactly.
So that's good to hear.
Yeah, admitting. Yeah, exactly.
Because I do think now that Barry's staying, which we'll get into more later, he probably will be here next year.
Yeah, probably. Which, we discussed already last week, so no need to rehash it. But my evaluation of his performance was basically, honestly, the same. I've usually been just a touch higher than yours. Like when you had a plus, I'd have him a D- or a D. But I'm actually in full agreement with you today. Like I said, 20. I think it was 11 of 22. I believe it was. There's not much of completion percentage. Not much in the yards. A lot of not great balls. There was that really great ball to Cannell, which was dropped, which is not his fault. It was an excellent.
But to be fair, if you rely a lot on one big ball a game, you're also more likely to end up with a drop completely nullifying a ton of your performance when it's so heavily weighted towards one throw. So to be fair, most of those have been caught in the past few games.
Yeah.
So if you think about its law of averages, sooner or later one of them is going to get dropped.
No, absolutely.
Just putting it out there.
But it was a great throw.
But it was a great throw.
It was a throw that if it wasn't perfect was just going to get batted down. It really, the ball placement really had to be away from the receiver.
It was a great throw.
Yeah, it was such a great throw. So it was a shame that it was dropped. But like you said, if you only have so many completed throws, 11 of them, or sorry, you're only throwing 20 balls in the game, there's only so much that can really happen, right? When you have a smaller sample size. And in this game, he did have a smaller sample size than I think the Browns probably wanted him to throw more 30 times in the game, but you couldn't because
the defense was referring to.
Stuff. No, I know.
I'm saying his big play percentage.
No, I know.
Most games he has one or two really big plays. I'm saying if you rely on that a lot, chance will kick in,
No, yeah. I was saying about also in this game, he didn't have as many opportunities as well.
That's true, but 22 is not that bad.
No, I know, but I think the team wanted him to have 30 or more.
Oh.
But because of the interceptions, the Bengals kind of had more possession.
Because they drove and then had the interception.
Yeah,
so it's definitely true they had a higher time of possession for sure.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, especially at the beginning of the game. But overall, it just wasn't a great performance. And like I said,
that kind of works against him because he's usually started off hotter.
Yes. But I said
usually that would work out better for him if he's less possessions. Usually.
Yeah. I mean, I said last week that I didn't really feel like there was anything he could do in that last game to change the Browns' plans as far as drafting, I guess what would be his replacement, because he is technically the starter right now, so I guess you would say it would be his replacement. But we'll see. But I didn't see that. But I was like, even if he threw 300 yards, it'd be hard to fully give credit for that because it being the last game of the season and not knowing who the Bengals were going to play. So there was all of that. So, like I said, I'm in agreement with you. I'm giving him an F+. I want to move on from there because I think, honestly, the team is moving on from him as well. But we're going to get more into that. We will have some, off-season, I should say, episodes. We'll touch a little bit more on that, especially as we get more information.
Sorry, that came out of nowhere.
Yeah, especially as we're getting more information about what they're actually going to do at quarterback. But I want to move on to Myles Garrett. He obviously did end up breaking the record. 23 sacks in the season, the record that held for, I think it was, 25 years?
So to speak. I mean, it did get tied. But
yeah, it did get tied, but it wasn't broken.
But it wasn't broken.
So Myles Garrett getting that. That was really nice to see, because it was the whole broadcast was basically based around Myles Garrett. They basically just kept mentioning, Myles Garrett, whoa, whoa, whoa. That was, you forgot that there was a whole other team going on, and there was, 22 other players, based off how much they were talking about Myles Garrett. But I'm really glad that he actually got that sack. When he didn't get it in that last game, I was like, oh, man. Because now if you get to the next one, now there's going to be an asterisk. There's always going to be somebody saying, but he had 17 games. He had a whole extra game.
Yeah.
The thing is, though, it's kind of a point. He did have an extra game, and he got it in that extra game. Do you think that there should be an asterisk next to this record?
So it's interesting. First of all, I don't think there will be, and I think people will think of it less as time goes on, right? Because, for example, does anybody think about the fact that we have 16 games, whereas they used to have 14 games? A lot of records were broken after we moved to 16 games. A lot of old quarterbacks used to play in 14-game seasons, outside of even the fact that they used to run a lot more and whatever, but that's all other thing. Yeah. A lot of other records were broken based, on the fact that we played more games. A lot of
passing yards were all of a sudden broken really quickly.
Yeah, so and then nobody even thinks about it after a while, right? So
Dan give it a little while. Right, when the Dolphins had that undefeated season, that was a 14-game season.
Yeah.
When the Patriots went undefeated...
That's not Dan Marino.
What am I talking about?
They went undefeated way before Marino.
Sorry, whatever. I'm mixing them up. But
that was Brian Greasy.
Sorry, but the Dolphins, when they went 14-0...
Yes, it was...
When the Patriots went undefeated all the way up until the Super Bowl, the Patriots had actually won more games in a row than that.
Yeah, so they went 16-0. So 14-0 regular season, and then 16-0 to win the Dolphins.
I'm saying the Patriots
won 17, and then they lost the 18th game.
Right, so
but they actually went undefeated.
That it was a greater season in that way.
No, you definitely could.
So point being that, you're saying, that with time,
a lot of people say they're the better
change,
team.
Yeah. That the asterisk, maybe some people will have one now, but in time the asterisk will disappear.
Right, and but even then, you got to remember, Strahan, when he set the record, there was a lot of talk about asterisk on his record. Because the quarterback, if you remember, I think it was Favre, just kind of slid down. I don't know if you know this, but like on the last sack, he slid down.
Yeah.
Before he came in, everybody was like, sure as heck looked like you just gave it to him over Gastineau.
I might say that about that Joe Burrow one too, because he went down. But to me, that was just him.
But he was already
getting
touched.
Sacked, exactly.
Yeah, he was being touched. He was already being grabbed, so like he might have just been trying to avoid an injury in the last week.
But if he had stood up, he would have been sacked.
Yeah, like chances
he would have been he would have been dragged down.
It's also the last week of the season. Like he's probably trying not to get hurt at a meaningless game in the last week of the season.
Right.
But Mark Gastineau was very pissed about that because he had previously held the record for Strahan.
Right.
To the point where he confronted Favre and he was like getting all up in his face and he was like, "You hurt my career." This was recently too. It was like
really?
10 years after it happened. Yeah, 15 years later. That's weird. Yeah, he's an interesting guy. But that's a whole other story.
You can think that privately. You can't go around saying.
Yeah, he was like, you're offended with the people were like, "What are you doing, Mark?" Like,
yeah.
Anyway, T.J. Watt would be the better question because he was more modern times. You could. But I think also, you could also argue, look at the, snap dropbacks, that people were talking about breaking down. You could argue about how much teams game planned around him not breaking the record. So, I don't think anyone feels like it was cheap. So I don't think it will.
Right.
Steelers fans will probably say something. Giants fans will probably say something.
But I'm in agreement with you.
But I think it will fade also more as time goes on.
I think there'll be like some portion that will have the asterisk, but it will fade. And your point about when changes happen, yeah, like a lot of records are going to fall, but it's not a one-time change, right? This is a 17-game season. It's also a pretty good chance we're going to eventually move to 18 games in the not-too-distant future. But regardless of that, even if they don't, this is something that extra game is going to affect all records. So yes, there's a higher likelihood now that every record is going to fall because of that extra game, because of the extra time. Meaning that it's not like the asterisk.
I got to say, though, probably not the passing records because we stopped doing the hurry-up offense.
But it's not like
because the hurry-up offense led to way more passing yards than there currently is now.
But that's a style change versus something that's like a rule
change.
Right.
No, I know, but I'm just saying.
That, like, when something,
some records might, but some records might not. Is what I'm saying.
When something could be like a one-off change or like something off about that one season, right?
Yeah.
So then it's like an asterisk on that one season.
Like completion percentages during a COVID-shortened season.
Yeah. If you put an asterisk on this record, then you have to put an asterisk on every single record that's going to fall over the next 10 years because, well, every single record that happens is done with an extra game. If somebody breaks a receiving yard, well, now that has to have an asterisk. The passing yard, that has to have an asterisk. Touchdowns in a season. Everything's going to have an asterisk if that has an asterisk. And just like you said, right? The season used to be 14 games. Nobody talks about that anymore. Eventually, even if there are some people who have an asterisk on it, eventually that will fade. Even the Steelers fans and the Bengals fans, Ravens fans, even they will eventually move past that once that 17 games.
I don't think the Ravens and Bengals fans will bring it up. I think it's really just Steelers because they have T.J. Watt.
Yeah, sure.
I'm talking about Steelers because T.J. Watt and Giants because they had Michael Strahan. Like the fans of the people who previously held the record will probably throw a little bit of a fit. Probably more Steelers because T.J. Watt and Myles Garrett has kind of been a debate, and he also didn't have that weird semifinal sack. So they'll have their arguments.
For sure. But I do think that there will be some people who will put an asterisk on it. There'll be some pushback. For the most part, that will be gone probably within a few years, especially if they do move up to 18 in like 3 or 4 or 5 years, then that will definitely be
Also, it doesn't feel cheap with Garrett, too, because Garrett wasn't stringing by, like barely getting in there. He was so far ahead until teams started like game planning around it. He was getting all these 5-4 sacks, so I think most people feel like he should have gotten it this year anyway.
Yeah.
For that reason, I think that would play a big role. Like if he had stringing along and down the end of the year was getting 1-2, 1-2, 1-2, and that's how he was pacing it out, I think a lot more people would have an argument, but because he got so far ahead earlier, people know how it worked out, I think he also will play a role in it not being asterisked.
Yeah, and his double team rate is outrageous. And
that I don't think plays as much of a difference in your average discussion, though.
Oh, sure. But like I'm just saying, it's like when you start, like
it's a lot.
If you're sitting there as a fan, you're like a super fan, and in 10 years you're trying to evaluate it, and you start peeling back layers, start trying to dig in, see how legitimate was that record. You're going to find like an outrageous double team percentage, a triple team percentage. You're going to find just how many passing dropbacks there really were, just how much teams were game planning and how they shifted. Because I personally, I do mostly watch the Browns, but I personally have never seen a team game plan to the degree that teams were game planning against Myles Garrett in the last few games of the season, where they wouldn't do anything anywhere near him. Quick throws, they wouldn't barely do any developing plays unless he was off the field. Like I just never seen anything like it. So Myles Garrett's impact was obviously unreal, and he was also doing other things outside of the sack numbers. There's just not a lot there that makes you want to take the record away from him or makes you want to diminish it. So I don't think there will be an asterisk. He's obviously going to win Defensive Player of the Year again, which is awesome. Probably going to have Defensive Rookie of the Year as well too, which is pretty cool. Overall, pretty great rookie class, but it's a discussion for another time. But we're going to move on to the Brownie Points segment. If you're a first-time listener, hopefully someone is listening again. But if you're a first-time listener, the Brownie Points segment is kind of our signature segment. It's obviously our namesake, but it's where we award brownie points to standout players on offense and on defense. The more points you get, the better we thought you did. We always give out 3, 2, and 1, except for weeks like today, where we didn't really feel like anybody deserved 3 brownie points. We also didn't really feel like anybody deserved 2 brownie points. We really only felt like there was one player that deserved a brownie point. We're kind of giving more of a shout out to Devin Bush, who didn't have necessarily that spectacular of a game in totality, although he did have a handful of great plays, including that, 94-yard pick six or whatever that was.
Do you see when he's yelling at Myles Garrett trying to get him to block?
Yeah. First of all, I don't know if that was talked about.
I don't think Myles saw him for a bit, but he made a really nice move.
But the athleticism of Myles Garrett that was keeping up with the linebacker is pretty crazy.
No, it was great. And he was clearly trying to help, but he was not getting that. He was like, go.
Although I do think he was enough of it wasn't great blocking from Myles, but it was enough of a distraction.
No, it did help. Once he made the move, it set up Myles to make the block.
They got
definitely made a great move on that.
But exactly.
But tremendous effort from Myles and tremendous team effort in terms of...
Yeah. But the offense...
In terms of playing for your teammates, right? To go down there and make that block when you're a defensive end. You're not expected to.
Exactly.
So, definitely worth commending. And hopefully he breaks the record again next year, and then it's a non-factor. Cool.
Exactly. But the offense only scored 6 points. The defense overall was okay, but they were mostly just a couple of those huge plays, those interceptions.
I think you're being I would rate the defense pretty poorly, honestly.
When the Bengals needed to move, they were able to move on them.
They moved on them a lot. Those turnovers helped the fact that the Bengals were in our red zone.
Right.
If it wasn't for that, you take that away, then you take away the Browns' 2 touchdowns, and you realize they were give them a few scores, at least field goals, and suddenly they're winning by quite a bit. So I don't know. I didn't like the way our defense was playing. Chase Brown gave him a big problem, which I saw coming in. He gave us a big problem.
Well, who also didn't like the performance of that game?
Jimmy Haslam.
Jimmy and D. Haslam. Transition. Clearly, they were not so happy, or not happy enough with that performance. Kevin Stefanski got the news it was today, sorry. About afternoon time, I think is when I saw it, that Kevin Stefanski indeed was let go. Is something we've obviously been discussing all year. But the interesting thing is that we kind of assumed it would be a package deal. That would be Kevin Stefanski along with Andrew Berry. Now, who knows what might happen in the next couple of days. Maybe they don't want to do it both at once, although typically that's what happens. But it does seem like Andrew Berry is going to hold on to his job, and Kevin Stefanski lost it. And my question is, if you're going to choose between one of those two, if you're Jimmy Haslam and D. Haslam and you decide we're not going to get rid of both, we only want to do one, do you really feel like Kevin Stefanski deserved to be let go more than Andrew Berry? Because I would make the argument that Andrew Berry is the one who supplied Kevin Stefanski with not much of a quarterback room, with pretty much an entirely rookie-based running back room, with basically no offensive line and basically no receiving help. The defense is great, but Andrew Berry is the one who supplied Kevin Stefanski with basically nothing to work with. And I'm not saying Kevin Stefanski didn't do enough. He really didn't do. He did little enough. Confusing way of wording it. But Kevin Stefanski did enough to deserve to be fired. But at the same time, there's an argument to be made that he was working with absolute scraps, and that's Andrew Berry's fault as well, that Andrew Berry should have also gone. But if you're only going to do one, do you think Kevin Stefanski deserved to be fired more so than Andrew Berry? And did you think Kevin Stefanski deserved to be fired at all? Because there are some still saying that Kevin Stefanski's going to be hired tomorrow. We're going to look like idiots in about a year.
So I think there's a couple of things. So number one, I think that this is only stronger proof of my theory that ownership pushed a Deshaun trade. Mm-hmm. Because I believe if ownership did not push that trade, there is no way he's still there.
Andrew Berry, right. Because, we're talking about a trade that went down now, we know for sure with full context.
As one of the worst
trades
in
sports, period. Not just the NFL.
It's probably the worst in NFL history.
Right.
You could make your arguments. Russell was pretty bad too. But most people are saying this is the worst trade in NFL history. And no, I don't mean momentarily when people say something stupid like the Cowboys trade this offseason when they were like, Michael Parsons, worst trade in NFL history.
Right.
Why would it be for the Cowboys? Which was no, it's not. They got a solid DT. They also got 2 first-round picks for a guy who wanted a ridiculous amount of money. You might not love the trade, but it's not the worst.
Right.
Giving up 3 first-round picks for a guy who ends up being trash is the worst.
Right. You got value
and
back,
the money, yeah.
And the Packers got value back. The reason why the Browns trade was the Deshaun Watson trade was so bad is you got no value from the guy you gave up everything for.
Your salary cap is messed up. Your picks are messed up, and he was worse than most quarterbacks in the league.
You gave up one of the largest packages that you could give up in terms of combination of the contract and the assets, and you got literally nothing back. You got nothing out of it.
Yeah, because that level of play you get anywhere.
Yeah.
You could have just kept Jacoby Brissett for that.
Exactly.
So you're saying
that obviously means it was owner driven. It must have been, right.
The push, because otherwise there's no way. Right. He probably would have fired before. But certainly as you're firing people, no way.
You'd have to think, yeah.
So I think he's getting more leeway because of that. I think that's something to keep in mind.
True. Definitely a fair point.
I absolutely do. Like, of course, I hate when people go, well, the owner said that of course it was Andrew Berry. And of course he's going to say that. He's not going to say I'm forcing decisions.
They've been actually pretty good with at least pretending to the media, reporting to the media that everybody's in lockstep.
They're never going to say
and they're all in total agreement and everything is a joint decision. They do a good job of generally putting up that front, but we all know behind closed doors there's obviously some disagreement. They're not the same human being. There's got to be some disagreement on some major decision.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. And so I really believe this means that that was a big reason. Because of that, I think he's getting more leeway.
Leeway now, right.
Because of that. Because he didn't have as many first-round picks and things like that. So I think that's part of his argument. Part of his argument is, I don't have the same amount of first-round picks, so I couldn't fix as many of these positions as I wanted to.
The salary cap issues.
The salary cap, I couldn't fix it, blah, blah, blah.
One could argue he did do some good finagling with the salary cap.
And he said, look, I got a first-round pick this year. Look at my draft. It's so much better. And I think the draft is the ultimate sealer for him because he can say there's an upside. Like for him, on the back end, it's going up. I know they won 2 games at the end of the year. They're not really going up for Stefanski. It's been a really bad year. He
probably said, look at this draft class. Imagine what we do next year with 2 first-round picks.
Yeah, and the last game was against nothing, no burger. Like, it was a fluky win, too. Like, yeah, so, it's mostly been a down year for Stefanski, ending on the down, and he's saying, look at my young class. We're headed on the up. So I think that's why. Does he deserve it more? I don't know that I agree. I think Barry is a kryptonite for our organization because he doesn't have the guts to make the big move. Meaning he does something solidly enough, but he'll never be really, really good. So the question
is... And again, you're saying, Deshaun Watson was a big move, but you don't think that was him.
No, I don't think that was him.
Right.
I think in general, because I don't think that's the style at all.
I'm saying, but just to clarify, the point.
He'll occasionally make some good moves, and he will. Occasionally make him, like Tyson Campbell. That was a really nice move. Now, mind you, it was replacing one of his draft picks.
Yeah.
But the point is, some of these guys work out really well. But, Elijah Moore didn't really work out. I personally liked Elijah Moore, but it wasn't worth a second-round pick. You know what I mean? That didn't work out well. We talk a lot about Conklin. That's been a disaster. The re-signing is particularly problematic. The offensive line tackles in general just not really being addressed, despite the fact that you knew coming into this year that both tackles were injury-prone. And you didn't really have a plan to deal with that at all. That's a problem.
Yeah, it makes you wonder if he knew before the season that no matter what, he wasn't going to get fired.
Yeah, and personally, although I love Quinshon Judkins, I would not have drafted him then. Not because I don't love Quinshon Judkins, but just I don't think you should be... I think it's rare to use a second-round pick on a running back, and I think having a better offensive line makes such a difference. Look at the Eagles, Saquon Barkley. This year, much worse than last year. Why? Because last year they had a good offensive line.
But you also saw that, Quinshon Judkins is...
No, he's a good back.
Judkins is good, but you also saw that he was very limited in what he could do because of how bad the offensive line was.
Right, and that's the point. Being a team builder is not the same thing as getting a good player.
Identifying, yes. It's one thing to identify, yes, you are good. It's another thing to identify, this is what this team needs, and this will have a bigger impact on the team and the ripple effects and so on.
It's also different because it's easier to overdraft a defensive tackle and a running back and get good talent because you're overdrafting. Sure. You're drafting at a higher position than people typically draft at that position,
right.
So you have a higher group of talent. I would have loved it if they had taken Kyle Monangai in the 6th round, right? Mm. Get yourself a solid back without spending that high of capital. That's a good GM. Good
GM. Been that impressed with his moves. Basically.
You didn't need to make that big jump at running back. It wasn't going to get you over the top anyway. But Monangai's a solid back. I think most people have seen that. He's a solid back. He's probably 800 plus something yard back. He probably puts up a similar performance to Judkins this year. Not the same. He wouldn't have some of those more big explosive plays, but similar overall because there wasn't that much to do. So you get your solid back. You don't use that same because that's what good GMs do. They find positions like running back that have values late in the draft. That's what great running backs don't have to overdraft defensive tackle. I liked Mason Graham. I have no problem with Mason Graham, but you probably should have had the guts to pull the trigger and make McMillan, Totoro McMillan, or whatever. Point is, he's really good. He looks great. He's doing great things down there. He looks fantastic considering he doesn't exactly have a great quarterback. Looks great. You needed a receiver for a long time. He's a freak. He's 6'5". He's what you need.
Yeah.
He's the next Mike Evans, except with less drop problems. That was your guy. You have to have the guts to pull the trigger on those important positions. He didn't, and he didn't trade down either. Like, if you're going to do it, then trade down again. Don't draft defensive tackle at 5. Like, unless that guy's Aaron Donald, unless he's one of those absolute freaks, like, chances are it's not going to be worth it. So, I don't hate Barry. I don't mind Barry. But I think it comes with 2 big negatives. I think number 1, like I said, in general, the guts to pull the trigger. And number 2, because he doesn't have the guts, because he never makes moves mid-season, another coach kind of knows that you're in a weird spot. Like, if things aren't going well mid-season, he won't make a move to try to help get you there. He doesn't do it, ever. Mm-hmm. So, honestly, if I had to choose, in retrospect, I would fire Barry. Because I think it's easier to find a coach.
You would fire Barry over Stefanski?
If I had to choose.
If you had to choose one or the other. Right, okay.
Because ultimately, although I think it's fine to fire Stefanski, which I'll cover in a second.
Right.
But,
agreed.
I think it's easier to find a GM to work with Stefanski than a coach who wants to work with Barry. Because Barry, with the contracts, you're getting stuck with these bad contracts. He doesn't seem to, he should have with Deshaun been front loading, not back loading. It was not smart. Mm-hmm. I think you're seeing, the lack of urgency, and you're seeing a lot of overdrafted here over there.
To be fair, I do think Barry, I think the backloading was smart because of how he does contracts. Because what he's doing is he's doing the game that the Saints started doing in 2016 or whatever.
I know, but the Saints still had to pay.
Where they backload it because what they're really doing is just pushing it off. So when they get there, they're actually just going to rework a bunch of stuff and they never really have that same hit.
No, I know, but they did eventually after Bruce left.
Yeah, eventually they did have to just.
But they played that game because they were competing for Super Bowls. Once it became clear that Deshaun wasn't the guy you thought he was, you should have stopped doing that. That was my point.
Just pay and be done. Right?
Yeah, once it was clear, I get it at first, but once you get clear, okay, we're not competing, he's not great, then eat the money so that you can then move forward with a clean record, and then you have all that extra space when you get a rookie. And if you get a rookie, a good quarterback, then you can
capitalize quick.
You can capitalize quickly. And look, so we'll see. There's some interesting stuff in that regard. But look, they made the decision they made. Ultimately, Kevin Stefanski, I think his leadership is in question. I think it's getting stale there.
Yeah. All the penalties, the pre-snap penalties.
I think special teams.
Yeah, but also, and
the pre-snap
penalties, these things just point to sloppy, which is not really like him. It feels like he's kind of losing it, doesn't it?
I think he's losing his head coach.
And maybe that's because of the situation, but it does feel like he's gotten a little worse, if that makes sense. Maybe it's
he has.
Maybe it's because he got in his own head. But people do have a bit of an idea that people can't regress necessarily, but people can absolutely regress. You can get in your head and start moving backwards.
You can regress, but also I don't think all of it was aggression. I think part of it was the NFL made moves and he stopped moving. The NFL can catch up to you if you don't keep moving. It caught up somewhat to McVay. They have a good offense, but it's not like nobody can defend it anymore. Mm-hmm. Right? He's still, again, they can still run a good offense.
Coach, yeah.
He's still a good coach. But when he came into the league, remember? Nobody could stop them at all. They were a fireworks show.
Right.
It was amazing. They don't do that anymore.
Right.
Well, Shanahan, I think, has continually stayed on the edge of offense, off product, because he's just a really, there are different levels. Andy Reid is a different level. There are guys who they are offense, and sometimes someone has a really great idea. Urban Meyer had a great idea for a spread offense. He was in college, so he got to keep recruiting amazing players, and nobody really noticed until he went to the NFL that the league had caught up to him a long time ago. He wasn't a great X's and O's guy anymore. So Stefanski may bounce back. It's possible. He's not lost. But I always thought he was a step behind in his offensive philosophies in general. It was copied from someone else. That's kind of
partly why I think he worked well with Andrew Barrett. I think they both have a very pragmatic, methodical. They want to be slower. They want to be more careful.
Which can make you good, but you're typically not going to win the big one.
But and that's also why we didn't see things like in-game adjustments and things like that, which is something that Kevin Stefanski has often been a little slow to do. Right? It's just Kevin Stefanski to me is he's the epitome of a relatively average coach. If you give him a good roster, he can do some positive things. Look, the Browns, since they've come back, have had 3 playoff seasons?
You mean since '99?
Yeah. They had one in 01 or something. And
2 of them with Kevin.
And 2 of those were Kevin Stefanski, right? He can do something if you give him some talent. In the last couple of years, they haven't had the talent to really do that much. At the same time, there's lots of other signs that it's more than just not having the talent.
To be fair, also,
things like not having
he did not coach the game that we won.
What?
He did not coach the game that we won.
Oh, in the playoffs, yes. That's true, but to be fair, they probably use his game plan. But that's a different type of thing.
But that's a different thing. He always could game plan. That wasn't the problem.
Right.
The problem is he would turtle up, right?
Right.
And then what happened? We didn't turtle up. When they caught back up, we kept moving, and that's why we stayed ahead of them. Whereas in the Chiefs game, you could argue that we probably should have made some adjustments when they were clearly able to man up on us.
Yeah.
But we didn't.
Yeah, I just think he's an average coach. That's what I think. I don't think he's bad.
I think he's pretty much a little bit above average.
I think he's about average. Like I don't. Okay. I'm not against saying he's a little bit above average. I do think I agree with that. Sorry, I would agree with that. You're right. He's a little bit above average. I think I was being a little harsh. A little bit of average, but if he's not so brilliant that if you give him a bad roster, it's just going to magically look good.
I think at one point he was good. I think at one point he was good. Like you saw that with the Flacco year and everything. He was good. He lost the plot.
Right. I think that
he might get it back, but right now he's not that guy. He's lost. Yeah. He's not going to get it back in Cleveland. He's just not. Like it would take such a reset. Maybe if they got a new GM, maybe and they brought a new like quarterbacks and everything at the same time. There's a chance, but it's a big risk for a guy who just seems to have just kind of been behind the times. And quite frankly, he got outclassed by his offensive coordinator in the second half of the year.
And you know what? I think it's the type of situation where like I could see Kevin Stefanski going to another place and having success. And I could also just see that even if he goes and has that success, that doesn't necessarily mean I'll go back and say that I think they should have kept it. Because I think it's clear, like sometimes the reason why they were successful in another place isn't because they were secretly so amazing necessarily. Like they had that in them, right? But it isn't because that next year they would have done that for you. Sometimes the change of scenery is what drives you to make changes, to be
especially as a coach, because it changes,
to sit down and look at yourself, to be in an organization, in a new organization, or in a new city, surrounded by different people, by different minds and different influences, and you're less entrenched, and you feel like I have to prove myself now again, and that can light a different kind of fire under somebody, or just, like I said, the exposure to other things can help them get a solid reset, because I feel like part of it, I think he regressed somewhat. I think he got too far into whatever's been going on here in the negativity, and I think he's lost it a little bit, right? He's lost on the fringes. I could see that resetting in another place. Even if he's somewhat successful somewhere else, I don't know that he would have done that here. I think this was needed. I just also think Andrew Berry should have gone too. And also I don't think this draft class should have been enough to save it.
And also, with a weaker roster, you have to do more in-game. You have to do more clever play calling, like when to call what. It's not just about the game plan. Yeah, so it is what it is. He's not bad. Like I think he has some upside. I think the best thing for his career would be to be as an offensive coordinator under a really brilliant head coach. I think a rehab with like Andy Reid, which I don't think is happening hypothetically, but or Sean McVay or something like that, I think would do a lot of good for him for the Niners. I think that would actually help him rejuvenate, and he can come out and be great again. I think get a little reminder of what those guys have to offer.
Sure.
But I don't think that'll happen. I think he'll get a head coaching gig.
I think he will get a head coaching. I mean, he's coming out. Look, he's got 2 Coach of the Year awards. Someone is going to give him another head coaching job. No, because sometimes they have to, coordinate for like another year or 2, and then they get their second chance.
Yeah, but I don't think
I think he's going to get a second chance, like pretty much off the bat. The question is, what do the Browns do now? Because we haven't had to do this in a long time. This used to be a yearly discussion, but which is nice that it's been quite a while. I barely even remember the last search. But what would you like to see happen in this next head coaching search? Do you want to see an offensive-minded guy? Do you want to see a defensive-minded guy? Are you impartial? Like I don't really care one way or the other. Or you want young? Do you want experience? Do you want a guy who's been a head coach before? Do you want a guy who's up and coming? Do you want a guy from college? What are your feelings on this situation? And are there maybe, if there are, let me know, specific names of guys that you would like the Browns to at least interview or take a look at?
So I'm rarely into college guys because maybe more now in the future as we go forward, since they have to deal with NIL. But for a long time, they just, it's been such a different mentality in how you approach it.
Yeah.
That the actual head coaching part, the part Stefanski wasn't good at, which is something that a lot of people who are X's and O's guys kind of miss. Right. They'll be like, oh, but he's so great. And I'm like, okay, but what about the actual being a head coach?
Yeah. Also, again, I agree. I don't love the college to NFL route. Like, there's a reason why it doesn't work that often, unless they've gone to coordinating first and then moved up. But like, if they go straight, because college are dumbed down offenses. Part of the reason why quarterbacks aren't as successful right away, like these days anymore, in the NFL is because college offenses have been dumbed down and they're not close enough to the NFL. Coaches have the same problem.
But then also, I think a lot of part of it's also locker room, how you control things, how you do discipline.
Yeah. I mean,
it's a different world. Grown men
your oldest guy is 24 or 25 versus your oldest guy being 35 is a pretty different
usually your best player is 21.
Right.
Or less.
And
whereas these guys are fully grown, they're stars, they have
a
children.
couple wealthy people if you're in a good program versus if you're on a professional team, everybody's wealthy, which creates a different mindset.
Not to mention you've already made it to the NFL, you have children a lot of times.
Sure.
The way you approach them is a different world, and that's a big difference. And yeah, when it actually comes to pure college NFL, meaning they were in the NFL first, and they went to being a head coach, it hasn't worked in a long time.
Right.
Like at all.
Nick Saban didn't work.
Didn't
Meyer didn't work.
Meyer didn't work. You can keep going through the list. When you actually start looking at it, you're like, oh, like nobody.
Right.
The argument is Harbaugh, but even then, Harbaugh was a quarterback in the NFL. Like he was a good quarterback in the NFL. Not amazing, but he was very good. Mm-hmm. He went to a Pro Bowl. He went to AFC Championship game. Like he wasn't amazing, but again, like he was good. But he would be the closest thing. You could argue about Harbaugh. That's it. That's basically the only one. So I don't like going the college route.
I agree.
I think it has its moments. If you were going to do it, it would be a guy who builds organizations, maybe. Mm-hmm. I don't know. You could try Lincoln Riley. I think some of his offenses kind of sputtered a bit lately.
They feel like college offenses, right? Like I agree. I wouldn't want to touch.
Maybe if Signetti hadn't been locked in, he's interesting. But I think he's really made more for the college game. Yeah. The way he works. Honestly, looking at this, it's hard to pick someone.
Are there any names? Like, what do you think about Pete Carroll?
So I guess going in the NFL, that's a different route. There are guys in the NFL.
Oh yeah, no. Let's move on from college. Because I'm in agreement with you. I don't even want to talk about college guys.
First of all, I don't want a defensive-minded head coach. I never wanted a defensive-minded head coach.
Okay.
I think that's the reality of the league. We've learned it's not smart.
I mean, let's think about this right now. I mean, like the top coaches in the NFL are what? Kyle Shanahan, offensive-minded. Andy Reid, offensive-minded. Sean McVay, offensive-minded. The Eagles head coach, Sirianni.
It's a CEO type. So you do get some CEO types.
He's a bit more like not necessarily one way.
And Harbaugh's a CEO type. So occasionally, if you get a really good CEO type, those work.
Right. Which is what I think Kevin Stefanski was kind of supposed to be.
And Tomlin's good. He's a defensive-minded coach.
Do it. Oh, yeah, so Tomlin. Yeah.
I do want to give him some credit. It's not like you can't get one, but they're not as common.
Also, Tomlin clearly knows how to pick offensive guys, too.
Well, that's part of the game, too.
He knows defense.
But even then, they haven't won Super Bowls in a long time. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm not blaming him per se because it might be talent because I don't think they had good quarterbacks in a long time. But at the same time, but give him a little credit. But at the same time, they haven't necessarily gotten to the top, so it's hard to evaluate the same way. But yeah, like generally speaking, like it's offensive guys, and there's reasons for that. So there's a couple reasons. So like one of the reasons, look at Andy Reid, right? So this is great because number one, he's great. Number two, that means the offense is always good. But number three, they picked up Steve Spagnuolo as a defensive coordinator. What happened to him? He went to head coach. It didn't work out. He's a great defensive mind. They said, hey, come play for us. Now he gets to play for this team. They give him all the controls, run the defense however you like. Great. That's what he was looking for. Big fat paycheck. Get to do what you want. And now they have the same coordinator for years and years and years and years. And they can keep doing that because that's a lot easier to do with a defensive coordinator than an offensive coordinator.
Right.
If you have a good offensive coordinator, they're generally gone. And if that's your guy calling the plays, you have to restart. Look what happened to Buccaneers. They had a good one, he left. A good one, he left. And this year they got a terrible one. And things didn't end well. They got away with it for a little bit, but sooner or later people started changing and you know what the hell he was doing. This is what happens when you constantly have to pick new coordinators. The Lions, it's not the same thing, but Johnson left. Mm-hmm. They tried to keep it in-house. They didn't have as good an offense this year, right? Like, it's not that simple. So I think it's easier to get a good defensive coordinator than it is to get a good offensive coordinator. And I think it makes a much bigger difference to an offense to have the same offense for 2, 3, 4 years than it does to a defense. It helps the defense, but it's not the same. Like very few people are running a what's his name? I'm so sorry. The Vikings defensive coordinator, Flores. Very few people are running Flores' level of complication on their defense. So for most defenses, it doesn't really matter going to the second year that much. It helps, but it's not like a huge difference maker. Whereas an offense is a huge difference maker. You can do all kinds of things. So I want an offensive minded head coach. Let's put that out there right now. I like Clint Kubiak. I think he's one of my top prospects. He's a coordinator. Again, like we don't know he does as a head coach. I did hear someone saying like, oh, he runs a similar school of offense to Stefanski. Like, yes. So what? How you do is what matters. Like, are you good at it? And I think he did a really good job. Like, the Seahawks offense went down a little bit at the end of the year, but like the guy was working with what? Like, look at his. Look, I mean, it's not terrible, but like Darnold, like he's pretty good, but not like amazing. Like, and you've seen that. He's been pretty high turnover quarterback this year. Like, especially if you take the percentages of dropbacks, because they didn't do that many dropbacks. He protected them a lot with the run game. His percentage of dropbacks to interceptions is like really high, actually. Like, it's been some issues. He's looked good overall, but like you can definitely tell where the coach is helping that.
Right.
And then the receiving core is basically in Jigba, and that's about it.
Right.
Who's also not your typical X-type receiver. And he's made a lot happen. So I really like what Kubiak does. I think he was doing a lot with the Saints when Carr was healthy. So I think he's very good at maximizing what he's got. So I like that a lot. So from the offensive perspective, he's really near the top of my list. I don't love Pete Carroll. I think he's just a little too old.
Yeah.
I don't hate older coaches, but I don't think he's on the edge anymore. I think he's a rah-rah guy, which is not necessarily the end of the world, but I don't think we're in a place where we need a rah-rah guy.
I still think the rah-rah guys tend to be short-lived. I feel like the rah-rahness, I think, fades. I think it's different maybe in college because you have that constant rotation. So you could rah-rah new guys and you kind of almost have a reset every 3, 4, 5 years. Versus the NFL, it's a little different because, it's like the same.
But you have to build. I think he's better as a quick fix. Like, he makes sense as a quick fix to a team that has a coach that's just not achieving the talent level on the team. Like, they have a ton of talent, but they need someone to get that quick turnaround. They clearly have the talent all over the field. He makes some sense. Good example, Mike Vrabel with the Patriots. He's a good coach. Truth be told, he's not an X's and O's genius, but he's a good coach. So he came into a team that clearly had talent, had a phenomenal quarterback, and there you go. Look at them. They're the 2 seed in the AFC, right? So there's places where it makes sense. The Browns, it does not. We need someone to actually build an organization. He's not the guy. Honestly, there's not a lot of guys I really like. Kubiak really stands out. I like Munkin. I've always liked Munkin. Yeah, he's a guy I brought up a lot.
What really sucks is that if they had done this last year, they probably could have hired Vrabel.
They could have hired
already in the building. Basically.
They could have hired Vrabel potentially. They could have hired Liam Cohn.
Yeah,
who went to the Jaguars. Look how good they're doing.
Yeah, I know.
Look at that turnaround with the Jaguars. Yeah. Ben Johnson, maybe not. He might have rathered the Bears. To be fair,
but that's also like a recent success of like a couple
probably
of
not
successful offensive coordinators. Makes you feel like the Browns are going to look at an offensive coordinator.
Yeah, I think Munkin is a guy to really keep. I think Kubiak and Munkin should be right at the top of what you're looking at. Mm-hmm. Looking at the other fired head coaches, there is one more guy I would like them to bring in. I do not think they will, and that's Brian Daboll from the Giants. I think he got burned. I think he got burned bad by really bad quarterback talent.
Wouldn't you say that? I do not
think he's bad. I think he's very good. I think he's shown ability to maximize different types of offenses, which is so important. It shows an ability to be flexible that you don't typically see. I think every time they've gotten glimpses of life when he gets a little bit of talent, like he gets going. I really think he's a good coach. I think he's a good head coach. I think he's super underrated. I'm a big fan of him.
I think a lot of people look at Brian Daboll's arc and say it's pretty similar to Kevin Stefanski's, right? Like came in really hot. And then as the talent withered, the record withered, and it kind of just faded out from there.
To an extent, but I don't think it's really fair. I think he had way worse talent to begin with than Stefanski.
This year?
In general. Like throughout his tenure.
Okay.
He had Daniel Jones.
Yeah.
Even with his amazing Colts team, he started to fade. Mm-hmm. He's just not good, period. Like, there is no period of time where he went through a full season and you were like, Daniel Jones.
But the Browns have had no real quarterback either, right?
That's
my pushback. But
okay, so I guess Baker for a year, and then they look good, and then you could argue the injuries. So year 2, you could argue.
I'm not saying that Kevin Stefanski didn't mess up. I guess I'm just saying is that to me, I would look at those and say they had a similar arc.
He had some good ones, but the last couple years were bad, and I know they didn't have the best quarterback play, but I would still argue it's better.
I do think Daboll's a better coach than his record. Just to be clear, by the way.
No. I totally get what you're talking about.
By the fact that they had low talent.
I mean, you could make your arguments. I mean, look, Jameis, DTR, Deshaun certainly wasn't good. It's not bad, but then you could look at it and be like, okay, but last year Jameis, took a dive. Yeah, it wasn't as good.
I guess what I'm saying is that, like, to me, they feel kind of similar.
It didn't feel like they were maxing out. I hear
what you're saying. Is anybody else?
But like when Danny DeVito came in, who's not good.
All right.
You saw.
It wasn't Danny DeVito.
You saw shots of.
You said the actor, Danny DeVito.
I'm sorry, Tommy DeVito. But when Tommy DeVito's in there, you saw shots of life for the Giants. It didn't even last that long. Mm-hmm. But for a little bit, he was able to get wins. Like, you give him something to work with, and you can see that immediately kicking. Even Jackson Dart, when they were healthy at the beginning of this year, they actually look good.
Yeah.
Somehow. Even though this guy's wildly inaccurate, by the way, Dart.
Yeah.
But, like, still, he's making things happen. And then injuries derailed the whole thing.
Sure.
I don't know why Joe Shane wasn't fired. He's somehow keeping his job, by the way. Guy's
I know.
Probably the worst GM in football. By a considerable margin. But okay, the point is actually I think Daboll's really underrated. I think his ability to work with multiple quarterbacks. I think he's maximized a lot of guys. I think you saw better Daniel Jones in year 1 with him at the Giants than he was this year even. Because like at times he looked great, but with phenomenal talent, and then he just burned out.
Right.
Whereas he didn't burn out for a whole year with the Giants, which is remarkable. They even won a playoff game.
Yeah.
I mean, I just think Daboll really is built for it. I don't think people have given enough credit on how he developed Josh Allen. I really like him. I think he's super underrated. I don't feel like the Browns are going to bring him in.
No, I don't think so either. Because again, I think they are going to.
Even though he was a coordinator with the Browns back in the day.
Was he really?
Yeah, he was with the Browns as a coach. Maybe he wasn't a coordinator. He might have been a position coach, but he was with the Browns back in the day. So he has a little bit of a connection. I would love to see it. I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah.
I don't think they're bringing Belichick back.
No.
From UNC.
I know, that'd be really funny.
Everybody.
Not that I necessarily want
that would be
hilarious.
Oh, no, God, I don't want him anymore.
He's clearly moved on to another stage in
the
his life.
moment he named Matt Patricia his offensive coordinator, I never want him as coach again. That's clearly a guy who's not taking his life seriously.
Yeah. That's like, hey, it's my guy. Yeah, you can do the offense.
Yeah, it's like
Matt Patricia is a defensive specialist. That's what he's good at. That's what he does.
Yeah, so those are the candidates. We'll see. There's probably a ghost candidate. Where it gets interesting is in-house. Because some people want to see Schwartz, and some people...
Jim Schwartz is going to make a strong case.
Some people are whispering that we should consider Tommy Rees. Now, I do like Tommy Rees. I thought he actually was remarkable. I thought he was actually really good down the stretch. I didn't, because I'm looking at it, I didn't like what Shadeur was doing. And yet they were competitive in a lot of games. I thought he actually did a really good job of being patient, of finding ways to keep the offense moving in different directions so the defense was off balance, despite the fact that they weren't doing a lot of deep passing. They could only do it so often. You had to buy his opportunities, right? And they weren't doing all these crazy different things. The offensive line, when he came in, wasn't as good. He did different things to take pressure off the offensive line. He kept them going side to side. It helped the offensive line a lot. He came up with a lot of different end arounds. But you notice what I love is he's really good at calling end arounds. A lot of people call end arounds. They do it too often or too little. They don't know when to do it. He seems to have he's a good knack for them. He's gotten them at the right times. He knows when to call screens. He just has a good knack for when to do what to make the defense react and then move them into position to do what you want to do next. I think he just shows great patience with the run game and with screen games, but not bad patience. Not when they say he's showing great patience, but he's just doing the same thing over and over again, hitting your head against the wall, but in a way that's actually smart. And I think he's really great potential as a play caller. We could talk all day.
I do think it would be a mistake to elevate him to head coach.
But yes, ultimately he's only called plays for so long. He's also never designed an offense. He might be good at calling plays. It doesn't mean he knows how to design an offense. It's a different thing. Yeah, it's a different
world. He
world.
might be as a full season of offensive coordinator with a different head coach in there who lets him have more keys. Could be worse. Right,
because right now he's just running Stefanski's offense. He's very good at running an offense, but it's different than designing one. Right. So we don't know. And number two, he hasn't had the leadership of coordinator. He did it for 1 year in college. It's different in the NFL. And when you're coordinator for a full year, when you're calling the plays, because when you have an offensive-minded head coach above you, you're never fully in charge of the offense. It's just the reality. Stefanski is, right?
Right.
When you have a defensive-minded head coach, hypothetically, and you're an offensive coordinator, you go through an offseason where you're dealing with all the problems on offense for the most part. Of course, the coach comes in at times, but for the most part, you're expected really to keep the offense in control. The game planning and everything, but also a lot more disciplinary and things like that. A lot of the how to run a route. If your guy's struggling to run a route, you got a young guy, it's going to fall more on you. You're not going to be able to go to the head coach and I'm actually struggling with this guy. What do we do? You got to do it. So a lot of those small things and leadership things and running an entire side of the field plays differently, which he hasn't gotten to do yet. So I don't love going to him. I don't like going to Schwartz. You can go to Schwartz, but number one, he's a defensive guy. So I think Tommy Rees goes off. He has a good year. Guess what? He's gone. And then you're looking for an offensive team.
That's actually the biggest thing that I was annoyed about with the Kevin Stefanski firing, because I didn't mind his being fired, but I'm like, this means we're almost definitely not going to be able to keep Jim Schwartz, because he's probably not going to hang around for a new...
The extra problem with him being a head coach, he gets fooled too easy. That is not a good sign.
Hasn't he been a head coach before too, Jim Schwartz?
Yeah, with the Lions.
I believe he was, and it didn't go well.
Didn't go great, no.
Now, that doesn't mean a second chance
it wasn't terrible,
can't be better, but he doesn't, his mentality doesn't feel like the kind of mentality that I would necessarily want a head coach. I think he works as a defensive coordinator, but I don't know.
He's too bullheaded.
Yeah, I agree.
If you notice, again, we've talked about this at other times, good offensive coaches school him. He works well with talent that he then gets them to do what he wants because he motivates them well. But he's not real clever. I'm not sure he means not dumb, but he's not your Flores. He's not your McDonald's. Mike McDonald for the Seahawks.
Yeah, they're not doing super clever schemes. They're running a lot of man-to-man, which is pretty straightforward.
And people who do that
again, not fit into being a head coach. Obviously, there's a scheme, but it's not super complicated.
And those guys fit into head coaches better. They understand when to take risks more. They understand more about who to hire on the other side of the ball. things like that. They do a good job with it. Not always, but it's more common. They have a different kind of mindset. He's running a really basic defense. Like, he gets schooled a lot. Like not a lot, but like someone who wants to school him.
The defense has been
on
really
key
good.
downs, they'll move people around and he doesn't.
Just to be clear, you do feel like he is a great defensive coordinator, correct?
Very good, not great.
Okay, I would say he's a great defensive
I would put him a little under great.
It's not saying because he does have some flaws, but overall, like in the totality, it's great.
I would say not great because I think you have to be able to maximize talent better to be called great.
Okay. All right, that's fine.
If you're great, I think you
disagree is fine.
I think you got to dig some guys who are a little iffy and then still put up a good performance. Maybe not great, but you have to have a good performance with lesser players for me to consider you great. Like, people love whatever. Well, let's not go down too hard.
That's not too hard.
But there's a reason why. Because of that mentality, I don't think he translates to head coach very well. I think you might have a couple decent years and feel good about it, but you'll never have great years.
Yeah.
So I think they have to go outside. I think it's just the reality. Would it be great if you could force a marriage with Tommy Rees? That'd be great. If you hired a defensive-minded head coach, which again I'm not for, but if they were going to, he'd probably, like, maybe you could get that marriage.
Probably would get the job, yeah. Because the Browns are also not against hiring internally, right? I mean, they'll do that. It's not like they're against that concept.
But part of the problem is you have to attract a guy, and Barry is a holdover. Also, how flexible is Barry on his guys? These are his guys. I don't
think a coach is going to look at what Barry has done recently and necessarily been super impressed. Outside of his most recent, bout offseason, right, with the draft. Outside of that, I think they're going to look at that and be like, that's what I'm going to be given for quarterback, for offensive line, for running back. And look, the running back room turned out to be okay, but that's a bunch of rookies. You know what I mean? That's a really tough position to be in. The receiver room, like, that's what I'm going to get? No thanks. So I don't know if they are going to be an attractive guy. And honestly, that's the thing I'm looking forward to the least next year is we're going to have a new head coach, potentially a new offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator, and a rookie quarterback. It's going to feel like 2019 again, I guess, whatever, when they got Kevin Stefanski. It's going to feel like the old Browns all over again, where it felt like we are kind of in a different era where we had a certain amount of stability, and we're about to go all the way back now to square one. And this could be a very ugly next few years because we could have the bad play combined with instability, people being fired, turnover year over year.
But I think the big thing is Barry understanding you can't necessarily force a marriage. Like, is he going to have flexibility with his guys? So I'm going to tell you something right now. The quarterback, the coach is not going to come in there being like, oh, Shadeur, please.
Right. Yeah, but like I said, like, the thing I'm least looking forward to is just that head coach and a young quarterback. Just real quick, speed round here. Who are the guys that you're looking out for in this draft, like quarterback-wise? Who do you like the best, and who do you like the best for the Browns to be taking? It looks like they're picking at number 6. Trades might happen, but...
Yeah.
Who's your number 1 QB?
My number 1 quarterback is Mendoza. He's going number 1, too. The Raiders are picking number 1. He's gone.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree that he's number 1, and I agree that he's gone. Who do you think is most likely for the Browns at number 6?
So it's interesting, because apparently there's some talks about Simpson staying in college.
Okay.
Because he's been my guy for this. He has had no run game really in Alabama this year.
Would you not even take a quarterback at 6?
Like, not necessarily. I know we want to.
Might not be the year.
I don't know. If Arch Manning were to declare, yeah, you might have to trade up a little bit for him. But I think he showed enough progression throughout the year that you're a little excited. Mm-hmm. He's hitting the transfer portal, which I think plays into my theory that Sarkisian is overrated. And I think he actually is not a good developer of quarterbacks.
Right.
But, different note, point is, if he were to declare, which doesn't look like it, but if he were, he would be a kind of guy. Dante Moore you could consider. He does have good physical talent. Like,
sure.
He could be a guy you'd consider. Not likely based on a recent Instagram post, which is basically like, which he basically said, people would tell you to go number 1 to the Jets. You can't do that or something like that. So it's probably not. Honestly, I think it's like if Simpson does come out, then I think he's a guy to target. Otherwise, don't. What I'm afraid of is they're going to draft Lenore Sellers. So
I remember you talking about him.
Be careful.
Yeah.
I get the feeling. We'll see. There'll be a late riser in there somewhere.
Yeah, so we'll have a pre-draft episode. We'll dive a little bit deeper into this.
But as difficult as it is, go take a shot on a Sam Howell type. Go take a shot on someone who might have upside over going ahead and taking a high draft pick on a guy that really, honestly, when you were cold, like now, not hot right before the draft, you would never have taken in the first top 20 picks. Yeah. Don't take that guy. Don't do that. Yeah. Take your shot late. Take a free agent guy who has low risk, high upside. Go another year. It sucks. If you can, trade down and try to get more picks next year to give yourself an opportunity in a year where you can get that top pick.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be It's going to be a really interesting draft.
It might be real frustrating.
It's probably going to be really frustrating. Hopefully not too frustrating next year. But like I said, we'll dive more into that. Probably about midseason. We will not see you next week, but probably a little bit before the draft. Thank you for watching.